Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Shamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 1:12-13. Tasya prita mana raja viprardhomya kripadibhi Jatakam Karayamasa Vachayitva Chamangalam Tasya Prita Manat Raja Viprayardhomya Kripadipihi Jatakam Karayamasa Vachayitva Chamangalam Tasya Prita Mana Raja Viprayardhomya Kripadipihi Jatakam Karayamasa Vachayitva Chamangalam Tasya, his, Pritamana, satisfied, Raja, King Yudhishthir, Viprahi, by the learned Brahmanas, Dhomya, Kripa, Adipi, and others also, Jatakam, one of the purificatory processes performed just after the birth of a child. Karayamasa, had them performed, Vachayitva, by recitation, Cha, also, Mangalam, auspicious. King Yudhishthir, who was very satisfied with the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, had learned Brahmanas, headed by Dhomya and Kripa, perform the purificatory process of birth and recite auspicious hymns. Purport. There's a need for a good and intelligent class of Brahmanas who are expert in performing the purificatory processes prescribed in the system of Varnashram Dharma. Unless such purificatory processes are performed, there's no possibility of good population. And in the age of Kali, the population all over the world is of Shudra quality or lower, for want of this purificatory process. It is not possible, however, to revive the Vedic process of purification in this age, for want of proper facilities and good Brahmins. But there is the Pancharatrika system, also recommended for this age. The Pancharatrika system acts on the Shudra class of men, supposedly the population of the Kali Yuga, and it is the prescribed purificatory process suitable to the age and time. Such a purificatory process is allowed only for the spiritual upliftment, and not for any other purpose. Spiritual upliftment is never conditioned by higher or lower parentage. Om Jnana-timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Putale Swayam Rupa Koda Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parishana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vancha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tasya Pritamana Raja Viprar Domya Kripadi Bhi Jatakam Karyamasa Vachayitva Jamangalam. King Yudhisthira was very pleased. Pritamana, his mind was happy, satisfied, when Parikshit Maharaj was born. It must have been a great anxiety. Who will take over the kingdom? Who will take over the kingdom? There has to be an heir, a suitable successor. So now Parikshit Maharaj has been born. The king is very pleased. And he has the samskara performed for the birth of the child. Srila Prabhupada points out, so much depends on good breeding. So much depends on good breeding. For progressive civilization, there should be a social system arranged in such a way that everything points towards spiritual realization. The marriage is arranged so that a suitable boy and girl are combined for having good children. Not simply chance combination or a tryout, followed perhaps by a partnership, but a systematic arrangement for spiritual progress. And then when there's pregnancy, there are various samskaras performed, and then the jata karma, the ceremony for the birth of the child. All of these are meant for impressing upon the mind the goal of spiritual realization, devotional service, Krishna consciousness. When this system is followed, then we get a high quality of person born, or high quality of family heritage, generation after generation. But in Kali Yuga, Kalo Shudra Sambhava, these ceremonies are neglected. The consciousness is the consciousness of almost animal life or less. And so the whole civilization becomes hellish. Narakayaiva, what is that? Sankaro Narakayaiva in the Bhagavad Gita. When there's Varna Sankara population, just unwanted, useless offspring, then they make the world hellish, both for themselves and for everyone else. But as Prabhupada points out, the Vedic system of samskaras is not possible in Kali Yuga. Srila Prabhupada therefore says that the recommended system is the Pancharatrika system. So one may ask also what that's about. What are these Pancharatriki methods? These things are described by Gopal Bhatta Goswami in the, what is that, Hari Bhakti Vilas. These things are there, and there's another book also, I'm forgetting its name, where these Pancharatric methods are described according to the to be consistent with the Gaudiya Vaishnav culture. But the essence of it all is chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. My godbrother Madhusudan Prabhu once wrote to Srila Prabhupada in the 1960s maybe, asking about the Garbhadhan Samskar. He thought this was not necessary, but then some godbrother had printed out some pages. Yes, this is very important. And so he asked Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said is that as soon as we come to these ceremonies, you're all Shudras, you're all unfit for these things. As soon as we introduce or come to the point of these ceremonies, you're all unfit, you're all Shudras. Therefore, chanting. For begetting a child, 50 rounds, chant Hare Krishna, then have a child. Shortcut, simple, clear method. It all comes down to chant Hare Krishna. One time, my godbrother Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhu made a murti of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and wanted to present it to Srila Prabhupada's godbrother Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. Well, Babaji Maharaj was staying in one of the Gaudiya Maths in a room upstairs. So we went there, Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhu and I, and we came, and Babaji Maharaj was there. We offered our obeisances, and Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhu presented the deity. So then Babaji Maharaj was sitting on a bed. He looked at the deity, and he said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he motioned to us, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We went on like that for like half an hour. Installation ceremony complete. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. After the Garbhadhan purificatory process, there are certain other sanskaras like Simanton Nayana, Sada Bhakshan, etc. during the period of pregnancy. And when the child is born, the first purificatory process is Jata Karma. This was performed duly by Maharaj Yudhishthir with the help of good and learned Brahmins like Tomya, the royal priest, and Kripacharya, who was not only a priest but also a great general. Both these learned and perfect priests, assisted by other good Brahmins, were employed by Maharaj Yudhishthir to perform the ceremony. Therefore, all the sanskaras, purificatory processes, are not mere formalities or social functions only, but they are all for practical purposes and can be successfully performed by expert brahmanas like Tomya and Kripa. Such brahmanas are not only rare, but also not available in this age. And therefore, for the purpose of spiritual upliftment in this fallen age, the Goswamis prefer the purificatory process under Pancharatrika the Vedic rites. So Again, these things are compiled. One may consult, but the essence is the chanting of the holy name. Kripacharya is the son of the great rishi Sharadvan and was born in the family of Gautam. The birth is said to be accidental. By chance, the great rishi Sharadvan met Janapadi, a famous society girl of heaven, and Rishi Sharadvan discharged semen in two parts. By one part, a male child, and by the other part, a female child, were immediately born as twins. The male child was later on known as Kripa, and the female child was known as Kripi. Maharaj Shantanu, while engaged in the chase, in the jungle, picked up the children and brought them up to the Brahminical status by the proper purificatory process. Kripacharya later became a great general like Dronacharya, and his sister was married to Dronacharya. Kripacharya later on took part in the Battle of Kurukshetra and joined the party of Duryodhana. Kripacharya helped kill Abhimanyu, the father of Maharaj Parikshit, but he was still held in esteem by the family of the Pandavas due to his being as great a Brahmin as Dronacharya. When the Pandavas were sent to the forest after being defeated in the gambling game with Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra entrusted the Pandavas to Kripacharya for guidance. At the end of the battle, Kripacharya again became a member of the royal assembly, and he was called during the birth of Maharaj Parikshit for recitation of auspicious Vedic hymns to make the ceremony successful. Maharaj Yudhishthir, while quitting the palace for his great departure to the Himalayas, entrusted Kripacharya with Maharaj Parikshit as his disciple. And Yudhishthir left home satisfied because of Kripacharya's taking charge of Maharaj Parikshit. The great administrators, kings, and emperors were always guidance of learned Brahmins like Kripa, and thus were able to act properly in the discharge of political responsibilities. Well, this is extraordinary. Kripacharya was among those who ganged up on Abhimanyu, murder the boy, the son of the Pandavas, and still he was held in high esteem. All right, all these political intrigues, and everyone in the family wound up on this side, that side. But afterwards, no, he's still Kripacharya. They still respected him and entrusted him with these great responsibilities and responsibilities and positions to be duties to be fulfilled by a pure Brahmin. How broad-minded they were, great-minded souls. Abhijit Sudaracharya. They didn't think that now he's done this, he's finished forever. Still, they gave him respect. Quite extraordinary. Well, there are many points here, more, but maybe I'll stop here. I'll take some questions. There was, last time I spoke, we used up all our question time, so I'll leave more. Also, I wanted to mention that for all disciples of Prabhupada have what we open Vyas Puja book, the book to which all of Prabhupada's direct disciples are welcome to contribute an offering to publish. The deadline is April 15th, and to share an offering, you can go to www.sptributes.com. Let's see if I can share a screen that'll show that. Select window or screen. Remember, window or screen to share. Select window or screen. Let's see if I can select it. Yes, I can. Yeah, so there's the announcement. April 15th, sptributes.com. And if you're not Srila Prabhupada's disciple, you may know Prabhupada disciples, maybe your parents are Prabhupada's disciples, or your aunts or uncles or friends. Even if you are a Prabhupada disciple, friends may be there. So spread the word, please. We'll be very grateful. This year, there will be a book published, printed, and every disciple who contributes an offering receives a free copy of the book. So this is our tradition to Acharya Upasanam, to worship the spiritual master. This is what Srila Prabhupada taught us. And so we humbly invite you to contribute to the book to honor Srila Prabhupada and give pleasure to Prabhupada, to all the devotees who will read the book and now and in the future also. Thank you very much for that. Now let's see how we go back to, yes. Good. And I wonder what sort of questions there might be bubbling up there someplace. Otherwise, I can always speak more, but if there's questions, then there's questions. Carissa says, so Lord Krishna wanted this battle, even though both sides seemed broad-minded, friendly, and endearing to each other. This is hard to understand. Well, it's not that both sides were broad-minded, friendly, and endearing to each other. The Pandavas were broad-minded. And there were broad-minded souls on both sides, like Vidura, Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, Kripacharya. But there were those who were not friendly and not broad-minded. The Dhritarashtra, well, Duryodhana particularly, and Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra had the ambition to rule the kingdom and to have his sons continue. My sons, Mamaka, Pandavaschaiva, he divided my sons and Pandu's sons. He didn't think they're all my sons. He made that distinction. And in so many ways, he joined in political intrigues or sanctioned political intrigues by his evil-minded, as Prabhupada puts it, son, Duryodhana, to disenfranchise the Pandavas, to kill the Pandavas and their mother. This was not friendly. This was not broad-minded. This was not endearing. So, vinashaya tradushkritam. Therefore, Krishna wanted the battle so that the miscreants would be vanquished and a broad-minded, uh, great-minded soul like Yudhisthira would be installed. For that reason, Krishna wanted the battle. Samoham sarvabhuteshu, he's equal to all. Name dveshyosti na priyaha, there's no one who's his favorite or his enemy. But ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, when one becomes a devotee of the Lord, maite teshu chapya, then the Lord is within him, and he is also living within the Lord in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna wanted such a person to rule. Lilananda Prabhu asks, is there any example of anyone banned from the society of devotees due to improper conduct? Give me a moment, his name? Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya. In spite of being the son of Dronacharya, he was driven out. He was driven out. You're the burnt remnants of your family. He actually should have been killed, but instead he was humiliated and driven out not only the society of devotees, from human society, to wander the earth in isolation. So he was banned. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, of course, I can't remember that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu banned anyone from the society of devotees. From his own association, he banned that Junior Haridas for improper conduct. But still, the Vaishnavas were kind to him. The Vaishnavas were kind to him. They wanted to be merciful to him. And similarly, that Kala Krishnadas, who'd fallen down with the Bhattahari woman while serving as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they returned to Navadvip, must have been Puri, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, all right, now you can go. Rejected him. Yes, it was Puri. So then the devotees were kind to him. Yes, that you take this service to go to Navadvip and give news of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sachimata and the other Vaishnavas. So they were kind to him. Is it considered the highest platform to forgive the brutal assassins of Abhimanyu? Hard to swallow. Should it be seen in the same way as the abuse of Draupadi? Yeah, this is hard stuff. And yet there it is in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Of course, Draupadi wanted to excuse Abhimanyu, and Bhima wanted to kill him, and Yudhisthira Maharaj had to figure out how to satisfy all parties. That's related in the Bhagavatam. But in the Bhagavad Gita, the topic comes up. Apichet sutaracharo pachate mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavya samyag vyavasito hisaha. That, my dear Arjun, anyone who may be sudurachara. Achar means proper behavior, and durachar improper behavior. And sudurachar, the exceedingly wicked behavior, most degraded. Api, even though his behavior may be sudurachar, bhajate mam ananyabhak, if he engages in devotional service, ananyabhak, without any other purpose in life, without any other goal, if he sticks to devotional service, sadhure eva samantavya, he must be considered a sadhu. Eva is emphatic. Sadhur eva samantavya, he must be considered a saintly person. He's stolen money, he's embezzled, and still he's saintly? Yes. He's raped some girl, still he has to be considered? Yes. Vishwanath Chakravarti, or Vishwanath, or Baladev, I think Vishwanath, maybe Baladev, says even if he's dishonored the bed of his spiritual master, still he has to be considered saintly. What? Yes. Why? Bhajate mam ananyabhak. Because he's with determination engaged in devotional service. Samyak vyavasito, he said. So he has to be considered. His determination is correct. Let me serve Krishna. He doesn't think, yes, this was cool. I can do all these things and get away with it because I'm a sadhu, I'm a devotee. He thinks that actually I'm the most condemned person. But Krishna thinks, no, he's a sadhu. And there's, in Baladev's commentary, there's this sort of back and forth discussion. He did this and still he has to be, and at one point, he says Krishna is like gets angry and says, yes, he has to be considered saintly. So these things are there. And yes, it's not easy to accept easier to condemn, or natural to condemn, understandable to condemn. And yet Krishna says he has to be considered saintly. So we have to accept the words of Krishna. Samapriya says, please compare Kripa with Ashwatthama. Well, it's a little beyond me to do that. I would have had to have studied Mahabharata and really be familiar with the character of Ashwatthama and Kripacharya. And even then, I might not be able to do justice to the topic. But sometimes we can say that even regardless of the comparison, Krishna has some point in mind, or some plan in mind. So even though, similar cases, the rule of law is similar cases must be dealt with in a similar way. But the rule of Krishna is he does things the way he wants. So he can, the gopis approached him in the dead of night, please dance with us. And after a little back and forth, he agreed, yes, come on. And they'd argued, after all, we're your devotees, you have to accept us. And then on another occasion, the wives of the Yogic Brahmins, please accept us. We're not going back to our husbands. They won't accept us. And we just want to surrender to you. We're your devotees. You say that you'll always accept your devotees, so please accept us. And Krishna, no, you go back to your husbands, they'll accept you. So according to his desire and his plan, Krishna can act in different ways. That's Krishna. Swaraj. He's not bound by rule, even by his own rules. He can do as he thinks best. The Madhurya Leela says there's a true story of a mother who's murdered. She forgave his murderer and actually visited him in prison and took him in foster care after release. She went on to give meaning to her son's life. Draupadi also forgave Ashwatthama for murdering her sons. Yes, there are many such stories. My mother told me one, but I won't, we don't really need to recite them all. But it's a great quality to be able to forgive. Our usual nature is to hold a grudge. This person has done an irrevocable offense. This person has wronged me grievously. This person has acted abominably. He can never be forgiven. That's the usual response. But on the other side, the great souls see things in a different way. The Haridas Thakur is being beaten, and the people who are beating him they're worried that we're going to get in trouble because we're supposed to beat you basically to death, and you're not dying. So Haridas agreed, yes, he decided that I'll feign death, just for their benefit. He didn't think that they've done so much, beaten me again and again. I'll get even with them. That's our usual mentality. Let's get even. Let's get revenge. Justice means revenge. But that quality is the sign of the great souls. And Madhurya Leela says Draupadi also Ashwatthama for murdering her. Something else. And this is difficult business also, because it's not like a common offense. You took my car keys and didn't give them back. You stole my car and didn't give it back. To murder a son, such grievous offenses. And yet, Krishna says, sadhureva. So these things can only be understood from the transcendental platform. On the platform of material consideration, we'll think differently. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's the law of this world. And that has to be administered also, and strongly. Srila Prabhupada criticizes the weak administrators who don't enforce the principle of proper punishment. But when someone is heart and soul dedicated to the personality of Godhead with determination and single-minded devotion, those rules don't apply anymore. Those rules don't apply anymore. So that's a very high standard of forgiveness, a very high standard of broad-mindedness. That's Krishna's standard. Something else? Tasya pritamana raja viprayar domya pripadipi jatakam karyamasa vachayit vachamangalam. The birth of the child was made auspicious by the presence of Kripacharya. And I have a message from Leelananda. Should we err on the side of? Well, that's where it ends, but I guess there are two sides to err on. Justice, okay. Mercy or the side of blind justice. That requires great discretion. Of course, you've set it up in sort of to prejudice the case, because blind justice is not supposed to be, of course, blind in the legal arena is a little different. You see, the statue of justice blindfolded doesn't mean that justice is supposed to be without perception, but without favor, equal to both sides. Equal to both sides. So in that sense, justice is supposed to be blind, that is, not showing favorites. But it's something to be thought about very carefully, whether justice, that is to say, proper justice, why blind justice, proper justice on one side, and mercy on the other side. When we look on the side of justice, we may see one thing. On the other side, mercy, another thing. So therefore, the judges are supposed to be the most careful thinkers. The most careful thinkers, because they have to consider from different sides, and it's not just like not such a simple thing as spreading jelly on toast. It has to be thought of very carefully. Do we give mercy or do we administer punishment? That needs to be thought about very carefully. But the statement of Krishna is that when the person is his sold out devotee, then mercy. He's above the laws of ordinary administrative justice. Sadhureva samantavya. He has to be considered a sadhu. That's Krishna's statement. So then our duty is clear. We have to err. We have to err on the side of Krishna's direction. One has to err on the side of Krishna's direction. Sadhureva samantavya. Carissa says, can you explain the status of the Brahmin class today? Are they inferior to the Brahmins of old? Oh, yes. The Brahmins of old were all in the mode of goodness. And we have that such a Brahmin hasn't been seen in yugas. The Brahmins today, smoking, drinking, any rascaldom, and he's a Brahmin. Or probably gave the example that he's pulling tela, he's like pulling a goods cart, and he's a Brahmin. He's wearing a sacred thread, and he's Pantaji. What is the meaning? Guna karma vibhagasha, by his qualities and by his activities, he's known. So today, where are those Brahmins? Still, we see that there are those who are of Brahminical quality. Even in Brahminical families, they maintain the Brahminical standard of life. But even the Brahminical standard of today is not the Brahminical standard of yesterday. Time's gone by. Manda sumanda manda. So the Brahmin class their status today is mostly degraded. He's a Brahmin, but he's an employee. Employed, Brahminical status finished. Getting a salary, not a Brahmin. Because a Brahmin is independent. He never takes in emergency, he may take the occupation of a Kshatriya or even a Vaishya, but never the position of a paid employee. And these days, if all the Brahmins are paid, you go to the holy places, even those who are the pujaris and servants of the deity, they're simply out for family interest and soaking the pilgrims for money. Not all, often. And just doing some rituals for payment and not capable of giving spiritual enlightenment. Therefore, Prabhupada wanted to create Brahmins, or better than Brahmins. Vaishnav means higher than Brahmin. So those who are initiated in the Krishna consciousness movement have to come to the mode of goodness with the transcendental platform. Therefore, strictly, no intoxicants, no gambling, no meat eating, no illicit sex, chanting 16 rounds every day, getting up early in the morning, worshiping the deity, following various regulative principles. This sustains the Brahminical platform or the transcendental platform. Otherwise, just to get initiated, oh, Prabhu, I got my second initiation. Yeah. But the behavior is not to the standard, and it's meaningless. It's superficial. Those who are, I remember there was a Brahminical initiation in Henry Street in Brooklyn many years ago, Prabhupada's time. And Prabhupada and general initiation. Devotees used to come from all over the East Coast when Prabhupada would come to New York, and so many would be initiated, 20, 30 at a time. So there was a big, long list of initiates, those for first initiation, and then those for second initiation, recommended by temple presidents from all over. And Prabhupada asked about the second initiates. He said, have you been scrutinizing people for real? Are they? The point was that he didn't want to. He said in first initiation we could be liberal, but for the second initiation we should be strict. So all fit. So then, of course, so many names were cut. The temple presidents went back and cut so many names. And I remember one of the devotees who was cut was so angry. What do you mean I'm not qualified to be a Brahmin? Blah, 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 blah. Totally passionate, totally angry. One has to be qualified. Samatha Pasham Kshantirarjamameva Gyanam Vijnanam Brahmakara. These are the Brahminical qualities, and they'll develop if one full-heartedly engages in devotional service. Yes, yasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvargunaistatra samasate. Thus, samasate sura. All the good qualities will develop if one genuinely engages in pure devotional service. So that should be our motto, to be engaged fully with determination in the service of Krishna. To be engaged with full determination in the service of Krishna. Then automatically one is more than a Brahmin. What is that? Sagunan samati chaitan brahmabhuyaya kolpate. If one engages mam avyabhicharane, mam chayovyabhicharena, bhakti yogena sevate. If one fully engages in devotional service to Krishna, sagunam samati chaitan, he transcends the modes of material nature. Brahmabhuyaya kolpate. He comes to the Brahma platform. Comes to the Brahman. So automatically more than a Brahman. But it's not just official. Any more than becoming a Brahmin is an official matter of being born in a certain family or having sat a particular ritual. So in Krishna consciousness movement also, it's not just an official thing. Yes, I was initiated in such and such year. I got my sacred thread. One actually has to engage wholeheartedly in Krishna's service and carefully try to follow these principles in its austerity, truthfulness. Then, as Prabhupada said, ideal class of men, women, everyone. Ideal. By behavior, not just by rubber stamp. Bhaya abhyantra shuchi. So externally, we should be very clean in our habits, probably radical cleanliness. Radical cleanliness. And internally, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yasmared Pundarikaksham, always thinking of Krishna. Then, Bhaya Abhyanta Shuchi, then one is actually Brahman. That's there in Chaitanya Bhagavad also. That a person who's muchi means a skin dealer, like a cobbler. Cobblers are not just people who make shoes, but they skin the animal, and they their whole thing is the nasty, dirty business of animal skins. So Muchi, he becomes Shuchi, a better than a Brahmin, actually qualified Brahmin, pure. Yadi Krishna Bhaje, if he engages in the service of Krishna. And the person who's Suchi, Yadi Krishna Tyaje, if he gives up Krishna consciousness, then he becomes Muchi. He just becomes a skin dealer. I'm this body. I'm a Brahmin because I'm born in a Brahmin family. But I have no Krishna consciousness. No, you're Muchi. Or I'm born in a devotee family, or I'm initiated. But it doesn't. If we give up Krishna consciousness, then Muchi. And if we stick to Krishna consciousness, Suchi. All right. So our time is time. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.